To answer your question, Johnny, I'm going to say it's not looking good at this point. So I don't, yeah, I got 0. I think we lost everybody. And I don't blame you. I'd leave too. I don't know what's going on, but my USB ports suddenly don't work anymore. And I don't know why. And this is kind of bizarre. But let's see if we can, yeah, everything's plugged in. And let's see what my source says. Game capture. Yeah, let's try this other one. Still nothing. Oh, what's that? I got something on the screen. No signal. Yeah, that shouldn't. Oh, what? Okay, now we got something. I don't know what the deal is with this, but let's go with it. That looks way out of focus. I did reboot, Greg. I rebooted, and when I connected my camera, I got my capture card, I got not recognized again, but here we are looking at it, so I don't know. Anyways, let's see if we can pick up and hopefully get through this. I can't make any promises because things are not cooperating. And also, I think we're back to the stretched out dimensions again. I'm backed away from this as far as I can get, and I don't know if I can get it all on camera. In any case, what I was going to show you is that this is the shield that covers the the video encoder. So you do have to desolder this first. It takes a fairly significant amount of heat. I'd say, I think I had mine set to about 485, and my airflow was at around 35 or something like that on my quick. So obviously you'll have to adjust from there, but the majority of the solder goes around the edge. So you've got a couple lines here. You've got one here along this edge that you'll have to desolder, and you can just kind of lift it up from the side, and you can see it's also soldered down right here. The thing about these is not really just the type of solder that they're using, but the fact that these motherboards are designed to move the heat away from the components, especially the processor, rapidly. So as you're trying to heat this thing up, the board, you're competing with that cooling system that's kind of built into this motherboard by just sinking the heat away as fast as possible. So that makes it a little tricky. I mean, it takes a decent amount of heat. If you've done one of these HDMI ports, you're already familiar with that. So once we warm this up enough and go around the edges, we can move it away. And here we are with our sort of, I think, stretched out image again, because this really, I think the dimensions on this are wrong. So let me see if I can adjust that, because that's going to kind of irritate me. Because it seems like we are looking at, see, can we go over here? I'm going to just try it real quick and probably regret it. It was on the screen for a second and then it disappeared. Okay, so we may have to deal with, oh, come on, don't mess with me. Well, let's take this off completely and bring it back then. Whoa, now it's gone. Okay, so let's try this then. This is really frustrating. Everything was working before I started, promise. Okay, let's get that. Let's see what happens now. Nothing. Curse you, Microsoft. What is the deal here? Well, it's not that. Oh, and now I just lost my camera again. So I guess if you're using OBS and things are working, don't touch anything, or you're out of business. That's what it looks like. Ah, this sucks. Well, guys, I hate to say so, but this may be a fail as far as, we don't need that. As far as this live stream goes, doesn't seem to be happening. I just don't understand. Hey, Carl, how's it going? I am, this is so irritating. These cameras, this computer just really has trouble with more than one camera, it seems. Let's see, can we go somewhere else with this? Obviously, I just can't keep rebooting. And I've got USB device not recognized again. Why are you doing that? I am being punished for something, that's for sure. I don't get it. You know, let's go back to the intro. And did we have... Nope, still not there. Well, now I'm on the screen, but the camera's not. So what in the heck? Oh, we don't need that music either. Sorry about that. Actually, there is no music. Okay, so... Yeah, sorry guys. I don't... Looks like nothing's happening tonight, so that's a bummer. No luck. Now my camera's back. Okay, so can we do the same thing with the other one? No? Please? Paul Daniels uses USB and OBS for his MacBook streams, but I think he went back to using a repair MacBook. Am I reading that right? I think Paul Daniels uses USB and OBS for his MacBook streams, but I think he went back to using a repair MacBook. Greg, am I missing? I'm not understanding that. So he uses a MacBook, but he went back to using a repair MacBook? Is that like a repair, like a different type of MacBook? No, Johnny, this is not Mac. This is not Mac OS. This is actually on my Windows machine. I gave up on Mac OS a long time ago. It is great for some things, but when it comes to streaming, for some reason, I think that the MacBook Pro video card, you know, I mean, they do a lot of things well as far as multimedia goes, but when it comes to streaming and multitasking, I don't think that the video card is able to handle multiple inputs and produce a stream at the same time. So I switched over to a more powerful Windows machine, and now we have this. So he uses a MacBook rather than a Windows-based laptop for the streaming. Okay, I got you. I think for some reason I thought I read it as both for MacBook, but oh, he uses MacBook rather than Windows-based for laptop. Okay, well, I must need a newer MacBook because, I don't know, mine just doesn't seem to be working. And what's odd is it was after I upgraded to, I think it's High Sierra or whatever, like everything worked fine before. And now when I connect I used to connect my iPhone and use that as a camera and it worked great. But after the update, now there's lag between the input on the camera and the FaceTime camera. So I can't get the two to synchronize. And then when it came to adding a third camera on, forget it. Like, it just can't handle it anymore. And I don't know why. It doesn't, I mean, it kind of makes sense, but, you know, I really didn't expect that to happen. So that was unfortunate. Tonight's guest is Mr. Murphy. Chat topic, Murphy's Laws. That's perfect. Yeah. Man, this is a bummer. You know, first I didn't get the stuff in that I was going to fix, which I've got a bench sitting here waiting. And I can't even... Wait a minute, guys. I have an idea. Hold on a second. Bear with me. I just thought of something. I don't know if I'll be able to use it on this dude. Well, that looks cool, doesn't it? But it might work for something else. Let me grab my Andon star. Where are you? Where's my other scope? Let's see if we can do anything with this. The thing is, it just doesn't really give you a lot of working space. That's the only drawback. But I can show you some things. See if I can get this out of the way. Let's do this. I can show you a few things that you might find interesting. Maybe, maybe not. But this guy, what I do like is it's just a plain old USB microscope. It is one-dimensional, so there's that limitation. But beyond that, the fact that it has HDMI output built into it by default is kind of cool. I just need to get my power supply. And if nothing else, we can hang out here and talk about how electronics don't like to cooperate all the time. Or they don't always want to cooperate. Sometimes they don't ever want to, it seems like. Now, do I have one more power outlet here? I don't think I do. Oh, yes, I do. Here we go. This will reach. We can use this one. I've got to get more on my desk, more on my bench as far as power goes. Let's see, are you going to fit? You're not going to fit there? Damn you. Alright, so that doesn't actually fit into the... I know I can lose something here. I'm just trying to imagine which thing I can unplug. Let's see. We can unplug something up here. That'll work. Yes, 18 outlets is not enough. Now, in order to get this thing to go to the computer, I need to take a cable off of something else real quick. But again, the downside to this is I really don't think I can do this PS4 under this scope. It just doesn't give you a lot of room. All right, so there's that. Let's get our cable and let's see, how are we gonna do? Oh, you know what? I don't know if this is gonna work because it still relies on the game capture card, which sucks. So we'll find out. I thought at the very least I could show you some things I've been working on, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. So let's see if we get an image from this dude. Let's see. And yeah, I've got my chat over here on another screen because I was going to be able to show you the PlayStation working when I got done. I was just going to move the camera and point it right there. So now you're over here, my camera's over here. Let's see, maybe we can just move this right over here. There we go. So let's see. If you are using a USB hub, it might be the issue. I'm actually not using a USB hub, Carl. I've got two USB 3.0 outputs on this machine, and I've tried to use, well, actually I've got four. I've got two in the back and two in the front, and neither one seems to work, and I'm not using a hub. Louis Rossman using HDMI in a Windows computer, but think he has Windows 8.1. Okay. That was a huge delay for my chat to appear. Hey, what's going on, Nate? Close to 3 minutes. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here tonight. Having problems. The delay is due to the encoding. Louis is looking into stream 4K from his microscope. Well, if he does, good for him, because I can imagine what's going to have to go into making that happen. I know that if I could stream 4K from my house, it wouldn't help you because my ISP does not give me the necessary bandwidth to make that look halfway decent. In fact, a lot of times we have crappy health. Actually, we have great stream health tonight. Yeah, not using a USB hub. So tonight is a crowd troubleshooting to help make his streaming equipment in shape. Yeah, hey, hi, Alan, how you doing? You showed up at a time where things are not cooperating, so sorry about that, but that is what is happening right now. And I will say that if we don't have an image right now, it's got to be my capture card that is the problem. And that's kind of what it's looking like. So let's remove it again and bring it back. And if this doesn't work, I don't know what to say. Well, I see something, but yeah, it's nothing. It's black. There's nothing on the screen. This sucks. Yes, this is a Windows 10, and I actually have a Windows 7 hard drive, but I like this one because it's solid state, and I think that it really helped with the processing speed, but obviously not enough. Let's see, check out this vid. It is really interesting. Okay, I'll do that when I get a chance, I guess. Let's see, so what else we got? That's about it. Other than the fact that, let's see, I did hear some interesting tech stuff recently. Gosh darn it, I really wanted this to work. And I've got no image, and it has to be this Elgato thing. So let's reboot that one more time and see if we get anywhere with it. And I guess that would be as simple as disconnecting it and then plugging it back in, because that is where the power comes from. It is USB powered. And there I got my wake ups. Turn on my device, and it says USB device not recognized. So this is an ongoing thing. My Elgato capture card used to be recognized like 20 minutes ago, and now it's not. I don't know what to do with this. OBS project. Does that tell me? Does that give me an answer, Johnny? Like as to why this is happening? Broadcaster. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to investigate further later on, but as of at the moment, see, is this my camera that I'm unplugging? Probably. Yeah, that's all right. I'm sure it's not me you came to see. Yeah, I'm still getting USB not recognized, so I don't know what is going on here. Webcam protection software firewall. Well, here's the thing, Carl. It was working initially, and this has not been the first time. Try to troubleshoot OBS with OBS Live CD based on Linux. Okay, you know, I actually have Linux, and I've been putting off learning to use it and installing it, and I think that's going to be one of my next projects, because this Windows and iOS are just not quite often not doing the trick. And let's see, can we make this come back? There we go. Okay, so I can bring this camera back. Why can't I bring the other one back? Annoying. Well, anyways, I can't even show you the stuff that I was working on. I had some really cool modifications that I had to do, including the iPhone 6 that Nate helped me diagnose. So let me summarize for anyone who's been following that at all. I had this iPhone 6 from hell where it had long screw damage that went 2 layers deep, and everything was messed up, and I would fix it, and then the headphone jack didn't work, and then I fixed that, and then the earpiece didn't work. And the whole time I was thinking it had to be one of those traces that I reran, or a bad diode, or a filter that was, was bad but wasn't acting like it was bad. And in fact, the entire time it was the audio IC, which is, I think, kind of strange. I imagine maybe during that long screw damage, it caused a problem with the audio IC and internally damaged it somehow. But no matter what I tried, nothing was working. So I went in and reflowed it, and I got the correct resistance back, but it was still not giving me audio through the earpiece. So I went ahead and replaced the whole chip, and that phone is finally done. That's the one where I have like 3 traces I had to rerun, and then an extra jumper that goes all the way from that little screw hole and across halfways across the display connector and attaches to a filter there. So that one's done. I have also, what was the other? I've got an iPhone 8 Plus that I was hoping to fix tonight, but they have a 30, what is it? I think it's a 25 volt capacitor that's got like twice the amperage rating of anything that we have available. So I had to go on to DigiKey and order some capacitors that I've never had any reason to have on hand before. And that one, hopefully we can knock out pretty soon. I might just do like an impromptu stream when these parts come in, because what's happening a lot of the times is that there's stuff that I want to show you guys, and I don't have time to make a full tutorial and edit it and put it on the channel. But I also really can't sit on this stuff, until there's a live stream. Like, I've got to get it done as soon as possible. So I think I'm going to just start live streaming when I can. I'll try to continue doing the Monday and Thursday evening stuff as much as possible. It's going to be a little trickier coming towards the holidays, but if you see a stream pop up on Tuesday afternoon, that's probably going to be why. Those long screws are intentional with the purpose for the non-seasoned technicians to mess their repair. Yeah, I think you're right, Johnny. And if you take a look, I've got an iPad Pro 12.9 right now, and I'm fairly convinced that there's long screw damage on that thing too. And it's pretty bad, because the way they designed it, where the cover plate goes over the LCD and the touchscreen connectors, I think that the traces are right at the top, like right underneath where the screw is. Like, there's not much of a barrier, just a little metal plate. But I mean, I haven't pulled it off to check, but it certainly looks like somebody took the long screw, which is down in the corner, and put it right on the top and just drilled that sucker in, which is, had me chasing imaginary rabbits for a while, because there was a bad filter. I replaced that. I checked the diodes. I checked the coils. I mean, there's no real schematic on the thing, but anyways, it's definitely a pitfall when you're dealing with that stuff. Random live streams will be awesome. I certainly hope so, Nate. I hope everyone else loves it as well. How much time did you spend on the 6? That is an excellent question, Carl. If I had to, if I was to do the math, I would definitely say too much, but it's probably not a terrible thing, because now I feel like I'm better equipped to handle a variety of long screw damage repairs in a much shorter period of time. But really, if I was going to estimate how much time I have into that, I'm going to say probably at least 3 to 4 hours. That would be a minimum. I've got at least 3 to 4 hours probably into that repair. And obviously, it's not going to pay for itself. But again, I did gain something in the way of experience and knowledge and diagnostic skills there. So what do you do? It's one of those things, again, where you get in so deep and it's like, do I quit now? Do I cut my losses, or am I just this close? Am I just this close to getting it solved? And I will say again, I give credit to, first of all, I give credit to Nate, because he was willing to come in and give me like a second perspective, you know, and he wasn't emotionally attached to the repair in any way, so he's completely fresh and got his mind open and working, where I'm kind of just thinking of the same thing over and over and trying to explore things that are kind of throwing me off track. So that was a benefit. And I add to that, you know, just the benefit of having a sort of repair community where people do this kind of stuff and cooperate. And that's kind of been my intention from the beginning on this channel, is that if I can take, you know, some information that's going to be helpful to other people and share it, then by all means I want to do that. And then you guys have seen me lately, I'm going to reach out and ask you if you have suggestions, because I never feel like I am you know, at the top of the pyramid of knowledge of any sort. You know what I mean? When somebody tells me that they've learned all there is to learn, then the only thing they've really told me is that they can't learn anymore, that they're incapable. So I do definitely think of myself as a perpetual student. And this big black box here is probably going to irritate me. So at least let's put something on the screen. There we go. Okay, we can look at this one. That was that. That was the backlight on the 6S that I rebuilt recently. Let's see. Where were we? So HDMI is not an option rather than USB. No, Greg, I don't have an HDMI input on my video card. So I've been using this Elgato capture card, and it's pretty buggy, unfortunately. And that could be my computer. You know, these things are supposed to be pretty reliable. So it's one of several things. But I think that one, I'll be going with the USB camera for the microscope, almost definitely. And also the video card. This will give me an excuse to update to a much better video card that can capture HDMI. So that's the other thing, because those are kind of a high ticket item. So I've been putting that off for a while, but I do think that that's the way to go. I think that that's what Lewis is doing on his channel. I might have gotten the link for the video card that I'm looking at from him. In fact, let's see, live CD, start directly from the media without installation. Okay, yeah, that might even be what I have, Johnny. I haven't looked into it, but you know, I've been wanting to look at Linux for a long time, just because the idea of always having to use one of these corporate-owned... I'm going to try to move my microphone here. The idea of being stuck in an ecosystem like Windows or iOS, to me, it has a lot of negatives that come along with it. You know, whenever you're dealing with a for-profit corporation, when you're going to do things and they want you to do them their way, your options can be limited, you know, obviously more so with iOS, but still I have the same thing with Windows, and they're getting more like that nowadays. So I like to get away from those two platforms as much as possible if I can make it happen. I hate when I have loop thinking moments. Oh man. So you know what I'm talking about, Carl, right? I mean, you go down one, you get so focused on something that you're kind of just blocking out other information. And it's definitely one of the things where I find that if you just, you know, they use the term sleep on it, like just get away from what you're doing for a while. You don't have to sleep, but you can, or you can work on something else and then just kind of take your mind off that topic for a while. So again, you know, sometimes you just have someone who knows about the stuff you're working on and says, well, have you tried this yet? And you go, well, duh, you know, why not, right? I mean, there's only so many things that can go wrong. So really, logically, everything pointed to the one area that I hadn't really addressed yet, and that was the audio IC. But for some reason, I had it in my mind that can't be the problem. You know, why would long screw damage affect the audio IC? And I imagine if something's shorted and it sends information or power to the wrong area, then, you know, anything can happen, right? I think the Elgato HDMI 4-port capture cards are $900. Yeah, so as you can imagine, I've been putting that one off for a while. I'll add it to my Christmas list, but if it doesn't show up on Christmas Day, I won't be disappointed, because that's a lot of money to drop, you know, on a video card, obviously. The difference between a focus or a thought block is whether you are thinking backwards. Oh, interesting. I'm referring to when you said that you kept looking at the problem the same way. Okay. Yeah, and I was, you know, I kept looking in the same places, because in my mind, everything that was related to long screw damage basically had to be on the top side of the board. You know, I'm looking at the screw hole and I'm looking at where all of those lines run. And for some reason, I'm thinking there's no way that one of these things that goes to the opposite side of the motherboard, you know, how would that be damaged? If it was a short on a power line, you know, then I would start looking everywhere, right? Anywhere that power is going could be a potential hazard. But I was thinking that these are these are information, you know, these are data lines. So how is that going to kill the audio codec or the audio IC? And in fact, it did. So yeah, what do you do? Again, step away, I guess. The microscope is live now. No, actually, Johnny, that is just a still image from last week. So my microscope still not happening. Got nothing. This one doing nothing. And it's not the microscopes, by the way. It's this guy. Let me grab it here. I got so much stuff on my desk. What I'm working with here, and I assume this is a good product. You know, it has great ratings, but for some reason this and my Windows 10 machine not getting along well. This is the HD60S from Elgato, and it's really kind of, I think, one of the only options for bringing an HDMI signal into a USB port, you know, outside of building a card, you know, adding a card that's got HDMI input on it. You don't have a lot of options, and for some reason this thing, I haven't dropped it. I don't know what's happening. It works and then it doesn't work, so it's a bit temperamental. How long have you been micro soldering? Oh, that's a good question. I've been micro soldering. If you're talking specifically about soldering that takes place under a microscope, I would say for about 5-6 years, roughly. A lot more lately than before. So, you know, back then, most of the micro soldering that I did in the beginning was charge ports and, you know, pretty straightforward, basic stuff. Getting into this kind of thing right here, I've been doing a lot more for about the last 2 years, really. Is the minimum requirement for that USB capture hub USB 3.0? Yes, it is, Johnny. And I've got 4 USB 3.0 USB ports on my machine, and none of them seem to like it at the moment. So I'm more inclined to think that maybe it's a software issue on Windows 10, or that maybe I have a bad capture card and it's just dying. You know, it's unlikely that it's going to be the cable and all 4 ports, obviously. So what else is left, right? Either the OS or the capture card itself, because I know that the equipment works. I know that the microscopes are fine. Paul Daniels uses a 1080 PHA from Rising Cam for his microscope camera. Well, guys, I found one. If you've seen recently, there's a guy that does micro soldering stuff, and his channel is STS Telecom. And I was just talking to Nate about this earlier today. And the USB microscope camera that he's using is pretty decent. Yeah, I mean, it looks good. The image quality is great. And I looked it up today, and that thing's like $130. So when you compare that to some of the other ones, I don't know about the Rising Cam. Do you know what the price is on that one? Because I was looking at the stuff that some of the other micro soldering people out there were using, and it was ridiculously expensive. You know, I think really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like unreasonably pricey. Like I don't think you need to spend $400 or $500 on a USB camera, especially when I've seen one for $130 that I think looks probably every bit as good as what I'm using right now. Yeah, watch STS. Yeah, so I mean, I think I can live with the quality that he's using on there. Right now, I've got a DSLR connected, and the thing about that is you have to make so many adjustments to the white balance and the brightness and the aperture and everything else to make this thing look halfway decent, that when you go to take a picture, everything's all screwed up. So I'm kind of leaning towards just doing the USB camera, and if that works, great for the price. I think Rising Cam is cheap. Okay, let's see. The word is Apple-like. Let me see what the Rising Cam 1080 is, because I'm curious now. See, can we put the browser here maybe? Let's see, will this work? That doesn't really work. Let's go over here. I'll open another window. Rising Cam. Let's go to shopping, and it says, oh, that's weird. I don't see any. I see a Kikusui Uprising Cam. That's not it, right? Is there another name for that maybe? Because I'm not getting a USB camera. USB 1080 you said, right? Let's see if that pulls anything up. I am not seeing. Greg, can you? Okay, let's try the 1080 PHA and see if something comes up. Because I am definitely in the market for a better option at this point. Okay, so here we go. Oh, that's weird. Amscope, no, that's AF100. Okay, here we go. Is it a feature demo 1080p HA microscope camera? Does that sound right? Because it doesn't say anything about Rising Cam, but who cares, right? What's weird is when I go to shopping, there's nothing there. So let's try this. 1080p C-mount microscope digital camera. $379 is what I'm looking at on that one. So yeah, again, you know, I just think that that's kind of a lot, especially when I've seen someone with a camera for under 150 bucks that I think that, you know, it's not lacking in any way. You can certainly see what he's doing. The image looks nice and clear. So unless this company wants to send me one as a demo, that'd be awesome. The store is at AliExpress. Okay, so I'll check it out on AliExpress. Right now, I found it on Microscopes Mall, and they're wanting $379. It says the original price is $599, but you know that doesn't mean anything. Let's check AliExpress because sometimes you can score a good deal. But it's funny because a lot of that stuff has got distribution. I'm noticing on AliExpress, a lot of things have distribution in the US, and you don't necessarily always save a lot of money, and you usually have to end up waiting a long time for things to get here. So they've got it at $304. At least they have one of them. This is an AM DSP XCam 1080 PHA HDMI, and it says $304. So I could certainly you could save a little bit of money on it. Let's see, where were we again? What did I say? $379. Yeah, so $379 versus $300. Oh, I'm sorry. The total price with shipping is $328. So you can save 50 bucks, and your shipping time is going to be about 40 days. So, you know, that's the thing that I usually run into on AliExpress also, is that if you're in a hurry, by the time you pay for DHL, then you're going to be at the same price you would stateside. But if you don't mind waiting, if you have stuff that you're going to need long term, and 40 to 90 days is not a problem, and you order it, no problem there for sure. Johnny, what were you talking about? The word is Apple-like. What did I miss here? EK, what is this? Oh, okay, that was one you were talking about, Greg. EK Gatoi HDMI 4-port capture cards. Yeah, 900 bucks. That's a lot of money. Might be a bit rich for me. I gotta fix a lot more phones to justify that. Let's see what that thing runs. Shopping. Oh, what? Oh, that is an Elgato. Interesting. Okay. So they have a 4-port for 900. The one I'm using, yeah, I think it's like 100 bucks, something like that. I like that Stream Deck though. That looks pretty cool. You can have all sorts of animation and voices and whatever you want. Bells and whistles going off, and you can code them into the little Stream Deck thing. So you have hotkeys where you just press it and stuff comes on this, and you can add your transitions in there. I think anything that you have in the way of hotkeys, you can actually add to those too, and those are pretty cool. Those aren't that much. Those are like 100, like what are they? 120 bucks, 130 bucks for the Elgato Stream Deck USB keypad. If I was a gamer, I would be using one of those for sure. Those look fun. All right, so I think a lot of imports from China are going to be complicated starting January 1st from next year when the tariff are getting full-blown enforcement. Didn't you hear, Johnny? We're not going to have tariffs anymore. Supposedly, they solved all of that right before they arrested the, who was it? Somebody at Huawei. Have you guys been following this? So Trump said that he solved all the tariff problems. We're not going to have any of that anymore. It's not going to be a deal. And then just as of, I want to say this morning, Canadian authorities, if I remember correctly, arrested, who was it? Let me see what her name is. Let me pull this up before I misspeak. I don't want to give you bad information. Well, they just had a thing here. They arrested their corporate financial officer. What is her name? Let me bring this screen over here so I'm not staring off in the distance while I'm trying to talk to you guys. So what is this lady's name? So she's like the daughter of somebody important too. The arrest of a top Huawei executive has sent stock markets plunging around the world and threatens to derail the tenuous trade truce between the United States and China. Meng Wanzhou, I'm probably saying her name wrong, chief financial officer of the Chinese tech giant Huawei Technologies, was apprehended in Vancouver on December 1st. Oh, that was December 1st? I thought this was today. This is old news. At the request of U.S. authorities. Arrested in British Columbia. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. And what this had something to do... what was the deal? Lawmakers are condemning Huawei, which they say poses a national security threat, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, they were saying that China has actually gotten rid of their tariffs on U.S. goods to some extent, and that has actually hurt their market value as of late. And I thought that we were getting rid of the tariffs here as well, but I could be wrong on that. Let's see. Hey, I recently broke my phone and got it repaired at a mall. After I got it repaired for 70 bucks, there were several problems like unresponsive screen, washout screen, and noticeable delay. Any fixes? What kind of phone do you have, Heat Dev? Rushing the expectatives to rise stock market values ahead of time. I don't know, but unfortunately, we've lost the doubt, or the stock market apparently here has lost all of the value that it gained this year recently. So it's like down 1,000 points or something now. But yeah, all kinds of fun stuff. How has China responded? The country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Thursday called for Meng to be released and for the United States and Canada to explain why she's been detained. I think this was the question, why she was being detained. And I don't know if I got to the point of that when I read the article originally. Obviously goes against the consensus reached by U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping on trade, who met over the weekend in Argentina. And North Korea is still building up their arsenal. We knew that, right? It was an iPhone 7 with a cracked screen. It was the only thing broken. When I asked him about the delay, he said it happens when you tamper with the motherboard. Okay, so you had an iPhone 7 with the cracked screen, and now you've got a laggy screen, I think is what you said. Let's see. Washout screen and noticeable delay. So you should not have a washed out screen, that's for sure. You should definitely not have an unresponsive screen. However, with that said, and if this happened when your screen was replaced, my first suspicion would be the screen. That would be the first thing to change out. So if they gave you a defective part, then the answer would be no, there is no fix other than replacing that part. You would certainly want to be persistent about them correcting the problem if the phone was working before you gave it to them and came back in worse condition. Now, with that said, we do have a known issue with the iPhone 7 that does cause the screen to respond a lot slower than before. And again, this typically wouldn't happen right after you do a screen repair, but anything is possible, and sometimes coincidence can be a strange thing. If you look up audio disease or boot loop disease for the iPhone 7, let me ask you this. Does it take your phone any longer than normal to boot up? If you reboot, if you shut it off, when it turns back on, does it come on in the same amount of time, or does it seem like it's stuck on the Apple for a while? And B, a real easy way to check for that is to go to your voice memo app and make sure that the phone still allows you to record a voice memo. If you can do that, then you can probably rule out the audio problem. But it does lead to things like slow boot times and the screen responding, like has a definite delay to it. Beyond that, though, I don't think that the washout screen makes any sense. That seems like takes about the same time, 11 seconds. Okay, so I think you'd know. Again, check your voice memo app and make sure that you can record a voice memo, and that way we can rule that problem out. And if that's the case, my suspicion would definitely be the screen. I don't know what quality screen it was. Even if you go to a mall, I don't know where you're located, but at least in the U.S., you'll have some recourse. It's not like once they sell you something, that's it. You walk away. You can go back and say, hey, I paid for this, and it's not doing what it's supposed to, and they should offer you some sort of resolution on that issue. I certainly wouldn't take it upon myself to have to fix someone else's problem if I weren't in the business, so that is kind of what I do. But if I went somewhere else with a problem, let's say for my car, and it came back from the mechanic and had more problems than when I brought it in, I wouldn't necessarily want them working on my car again, but I would want them to make sure to compensate me in some way for whatever problems it is that they caused. Hey, dude, I work in a mall. Yeah, see, and we've got good technicians that do work in malls, so that's the thing. It's like any other business, really. You know, it's going to vary from the quality control of one company is going to vary greatly from any location to another, and, you know, depending on which technician did the job. And if you're working with a proprietor, you know, someone who owns their own business, they typically take a lot of pride in what they do, and they stay on top of keeping their customers happy. And not that that's not true for a lot of companies, but for some it's not. So it really depends on where you go. Also, placing the phone against my ear to talk will make it press buttons. Well, that sounds like a proximity sensor issue. So when you place the phone against your ear, does the screen stay on? Because if it does, then there's an issue with the proximity sensor, which is what makes your screen go blank when you hold it up. So if I make a phone call, let's see if I can get my phone on here. If I go in here and I make a phone call, here's what should happen. You see my screen? I go like this, you no longer see my screen, right? Your phone should be doing the same thing. As soon as you cover up the top, if that's not happening, then you have an issue with this little dude up here, which tells your phone that it's time to go into earphone mode because you're holding it up. And you can do the same thing with the voice memos when you play them back also. Yeah, damaged closed proximity sensor. That's my guess. Who knows what they messed up in there, but you know, if you don't want to go back to them, that's understandable. But still, if you're out $70, it shouldn't be for nothing. So that's something I'd want to get some sort of resolution on. And, you know, it could very well be just one person at that location who made a mistake, but they should take care of it. He said it's an aftermarket screen. Yeah, well, that's fine. Aftermarket is okay as long as they work. And the defect rate is probably going to be slightly higher, as you can imagine, than OEM screens, but it should be pretty simple for them to swap it out for one that works. And I wouldn't say that tampering with, you know, unless you opened up the phone and you were messing around in there, for him to just say tampering with the motherboard, like, well, who was tampering with the motherboard? Because if it wasn't you, then it would have been them, right? So I would, again, I'd be persistent about it. You know, they're not just going to say, hey, tough luck, hit the road. It would not be in their best interest. Gadget Fix is the best. Get premiums. Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, I've taken up plenty of time, and my apologies about earlier, but some of these things are beyond my control, and I was really, really hoping to be able to do this video encoder, but my cameras suck, apparently, or my computer does or something. So anyways, I am going to get a USB camera and stop dealing with this whole mess, and then that way we can just tune in, turn on, and make things happen. And that will be in the very near future. But, you know, with the holidays coming up, lots of other expenses that I need to take care of firstly, and then we'll get around to this. So thank you again for joining me, and especially for all of you who hung in there and waited for me to get this thing somewhat working, because technical difficulties are the worst. Yeah, you guys have an awesome weekend. Thank you, Carl, very much. Thanks to all you guys. I'll be back Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and hopefully we'll have something cool to work on. I will see you then.